Happy Monday, everyone. We are back. It's the Crowded Booth. Ralph, Will, alongside me virtually. Guys, how you doing today? Did you have a good weekend? What'd you do? Tell me one thing you did this weekend. Ralph had a long road. Real works every weekend. Ralph, you had a long road trip.
Yes, I did. I went and saw my sister for her 21st birthday this weekend in Oxford, and I had a good time.
That is going to flow into our question of the day. If there's one college football venue that you could visit that you've never been to yet, what would it be and why? That's going to be the question for today. If you're following along, if you're watching, hey, comment below and let us know what you would like to, where you'd like to go. So, Will, I'll give it to you first. Or I'll go with Ralph. Because before the show, this was Ralph's question. Ralph, for you, what's your venue and why?
Bryce, you already know it. You already should know it. It's Penn State on a whiteout game, buddy. All day.
And listen, Auburn plays them next year.
Yeah, I got to pick another one because I was going to say that one because Auburn plays next year. It's kind of a cop-out, but the Rose Bowl. It's the granddaddy of them all. Ralph's already been there, so he didn't pick that one.
No.
Can I say something? I think the Rose Bowl is a little overrated.
I mean,
I think the lure of it is a little bit. It's the Rose Bowl, but I'm telling you, like, I have one for you. And if we're just talking about, because I was thinking venue, and then Will throws a curveball in it and goes,
didn't you with that.
A long time ago.
A
long time ago. But mine is actually going to be the Cotton Bowl, Texas, Oklahoma. The Texas Oklahoma game, Texas State Fair. I think that'd be an awesome atmosphere to be in for that game. And obviously, when Texas is at the top of its game, that's one of the best games. That's the Red River rivalry. That's a great one.
Another great one is Ohio State or Michigan for the game. Either one, the Horseshoe or the Big House, are always rocking.
I'll throw another one in there, and we can just keep throwing some more in there. Army Navy. That's a bucket list item. Would love to go see that one in Philadelphia.
I got one, and it's kind of different. It's not an FBS one. It's an FCS one. I've always wanted to kind of go to after I saw a game a few years ago. It was a Harvard-Yale game. If you ever watched one of their games, it's not a big-time game, but it's a cool atmosphere for an Ivy League game. I know it's not like the premier Ivy League school for football, but it's a pretty cool atmosphere for those two when they play each other.
I'll even one-up you if you want to go FCS kind of realm. North Dakota State. In their dome. I mean, that would be kind of cool. We're not going to get Idaho in that glass bowl that they have up there. But, Will, you got another one for us?
I've got one, and this is for Austin Bodley. I don't know if he's watching, and I'm going to have to show him this if he's not watching. Williams-Brice Stadium, Sandstorm.
Listen, Sandstorm, that is one of the most hype atmospheres in college football that has a bad
It's
team.
very confusing. If you're not a South Carolina fan, you don't get it. I don't get it as an Auburn fan. It's kind of overdone, but I mean, they love it. So more power to them.
So Penn State's a good one. You talked about the game with Michigan. I think if you stayed, I mean, the SEC has some great venues.
I mean, the Iron Bowl is probably the best venue in all of history. Let's go ahead and say
it is. It's a great game. I would say that, but if you're talking about venue, I think you could say Jacksonville for Georgia, Florida's a good one. Mm-hmm. Another one that we may not think about.
Yeah, but then you got to wear jean shorts.
Will is on his old man curmudgeon status today, big time. We'll talk a little bit more why, but one that we may not think of that in recent years has not been a destination, but this team hosted Boise State in the regular season, and they had a fantastic one. Stop talking. Virginia Tech. A home game, Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. That's a fun atmosphere.
They played Ohio State a few years ago, actually. How about that one? Mm-hmm. That was a really good game.
Yeah. Any last ones? Any West Coast opportunities? I guess Oregon would be a cool one.
I mean, I'd say, going kind of back to SEC is Texas A&M. A night game at A&M in College Station. That's a fun place to be.
With the 12th man. That is our question of the day. Not as fun as the sandwich one we had about a week or two ago, but if you have some questions, send us in. We also want to thank everyone for joining the Monday mailbag. We had some great questions from all across the state of Georgia talking. And what I liked about it was you had – I don't want to say it was – all Georgia sports, but it really was. I mean, we talked about the Falcons, talked about Georgia Tech, we talked about Georgia, and we also dabbled in a little bit of Auburn. So we thank you for that. Remember, every single Monday we can have that for you. We're going to start off the show today with a little bit of conversation, and this is kind of old news, but I thought it'd be kind of an interesting topic to debate here on the show today. That's why I put Ralph in the middle of your screen. He's going to be the mediator. 10 days ago, Booger McFarland, ESPN analyst, joined ESPN's Paul Feinbaum show to talk about the Kirby Smart. And this was kind of as the Josh Brooks hire for Georgia had come across with a new athletic director, talking about the direction of the program. And Booger McFarland had this to say about the Dogs. We're going to play this right here for you and kind of the direction that they're going. This is off of Dog Nation Daily and Brandon Adams. We just pulled this clip from them because this is about the only one we could find. They don't archive the show anywhere else. So this is Booger McFarland talking about Kirby Smart's resume versus Mark Richt's.
Here's what I'll say about Georgia. And I played against Kirby Smart. Like, Kirby is from my era. Kirby has done an outstanding job of recruiting to Georgia. But if you're going to be honest and you're a Bulldog fan and you're going to sit there and you're going to stare honesty in the eye, Kirby has done less with more maybe than Mark Richt. And to me, that's an issue because you fired Mark Richt because you got tired of 10 wins. You fired Mark Richt because you got tired of coming up second. Well, Kirby hasn't quite got you over the hump. It's looked different. It sounded different. But what does he have to show? And I know it's unfair because Tua threw to Devontae Smith. Otherwise, Kirby's a national champion. But you know the old saying, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. So Kirby, for as much talent and as fast as he's built the Georgia program, he's got to get something to show for it. And in the sport of football, it's about rings. And so far, he hadn't been able to do that.
I think it's very interesting to talk about that topic. This is a conversation we've been kind of, going around and looking at for a while now. Obviously, now people can make the comparisons because, as Will and I were talking about, Kirby has hit the 5-year mark in his tenure at Georgia, joining in 2016, winning the Liberty Bowl, and then now, obviously, the College Football Playoff National Championship appearance. So we're going to talk about this. And, Ralph, you're going to kind of mediate. We will not yell at each other. We will not decide that we are going to debate the the person in the middle and the other person. But I want to get started off with this, and Will, then we'll feel free to talk about this. But I'll give you the floor first. And we have a bit of a slideshow that you've prepared for us today. You went with the red and black for the slideshow.
Topical.
So I want to hear – I'll thumb through here. You tell me and kind of give me a breakdown. If you're seeing it on the screen now, tell me and walk me through. You are saying that Kirby Smart is not head and shoulders above Mark Richt like some people do believe.
Absolutely. I think, first of all, just let me say Kirby Smart is a great head coach. He would be a winner everywhere that he's at. But unfortunately for him at this time, he's at Georgia following a legend at Georgia, Mark Richt. And as you see right here on the screen, first 5 years, same wins, one more loss. But, I think that comes from playing in one extra game in the college football playoff. 4 10-win seasons out of 5 for Mark Richt, 3 out of 5 for Kirby Smart. SEC East and Conference, Mark Richt won the SEC twice, won the Eastern Division 3 times. Kirby Smart won SEC championship win and 3 Eastern Division championships, all in a row, by the way. I understand. I hear the arguments. If Kirby Smart doesn't have to play Alabama or LSU, he's got a team good enough to win all 3. There's no doubt about it. Bowl games, Richt 3-2, Smart 4-2. Again, Kirby with the extra one with the college football playoff. And Mark Richt, 2 BCS appearances, went 1-1. Kirby Smart with 5 New Year's 6 appearances now, 3-2. So he's been to a New Year's 6 game, all but his first year. I want to just echo what Booger was saying. On the field, Kirby Smart has matched what Mark Richt has done. He has not exceeded. I hear the arguments about he played for a national championship, but I say that is because it was in the playoff. If you look at that 2002 season, Mark Richt wins the Sugar Bowl, which is obviously a BCS game, and Georgia finished the regular season after winning the SEC at number 3 in the country. Kirby Smart matched that in 2017 after beating Auburn in the SEC championship, finished at number 3. So if they're in the same format, postseason format, Kirby Smart doesn't play for a national championship. You can go ahead to the next one, Bryce, the next slide. Recruiting rankings. No doubt about it. Kirby Smart has out-recruited Mark Richt. You see Mark Richt's first 5 years, finishing 10th, 9th back-to-back years, 7th, and then 6th. And then Kirby Smart, 6th his first year, and then in the top 3, including number 1, 2018 and 2020. And those rankings are from 24/7 Sports. But Kirby Smart's done better, but I do think that comes with a caveat. Kirby Smart, following Mark Richt, all the success Mark Richt had at Georgia, Kirby was able to build on that. Of course, the last 2 seasons, I think Mark Richt was down, definitely, but Kirby Smart comes in, infuses some life into the program, and gets that recruiting class back into the top 10. So I'm not discrediting what Kirby Smart has done recruiting. He's done better than Mark Richt. But I would say his job is a little bit easier than Mark Richt's after Mark Richt followed Jim Donnan in some lean years in the late 90s for Georgia. That's kind of all I got, Bryce.
That's all you got. We'll throw it to the national landscape. Obviously, is a little bit different. And I noted that you had said the power has shifted to the Southeast. And then you brought up a great picture. Look at that. Great graphics. If we need an intern, we need one right there because little Mark Richt and Kirby Smart. Okay. So that brings us back to the conversation here. So you have stated your case. And Ralph, I'll let you throw it over to me now.
Yeah. Well, I want to add one thing about recruiting with Mark Richt and Kirby. Both of their first years recruiting, so the 16 and the 2001 class, both top prospects out of the class were quarterbacks. One was Jacob Eason, another one was DJ Shockley. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to state that real quick.
Well,
now I know Eason's more of a Rick.
Jacob Eason is a Rick recruit.
I agree, but he did sign with Kirby being the coach, if I'm correct.
Yeah, he did sign with Kirby being the coach.
That's fair.
Now I will throw it is Bryce's time now to talk because I know he's got some rebuttals here. So Bryce, let us know.
All right, so here's where we go. I have a couple kind of points on this. I did not come with a PowerPoint prepared, and I also want to answer the comment that one of the viewers put on there, Drew Haywood, Kirby cannot get over the hump. So I'll say this, and we will roll from here. If the only thing that measures success in college football is winning a national championship, and that is by definition of what people are saying, Kirby can't get over the hump and win that national championship, then there is only one team that's good every year, and there's 129 teams that failed. And I think that if we look at that, now listen, a team like Georgia with the resources, the recruiting budget that's near the top 5 in the country, top 3 in the country, every single year, yes, they should aspire to win a national championship. But the ultimate measure of a program is how they are trending. Ralph and I have talked about this, and you look at some of the group of 5 schools. Coastal Carolina, Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a fantastic example of a school that is trending. They're having success. Have they won a national championship? No. But they're having success because they were a 2-win team 3 seasons ago. This past year, they obviously get to a New Year's Six bowl game. So let's stop. We need to stop acting like, and Kirby said this in a press conference before the Peach Bowl game, that the only thing that measures success of a team is winning a national championship. Now, of course, that's easy for Alabama fans to sit here and say, of course, because you've won, it feels like 7 of the last 10 national championships, it feels like. So I understand that. But if we can't sit here and say that all 129 other teams are complete failures, there's some teams that took some steps up, even in the Power 5 ranks this season, who Iowa State is a great one. They're a team that if they win the Big 12 next year, they could compete with an undefeated season to make a college football playoff. That doesn't mean their season was a failure. Another thing that Booger McFarland says later on in the quote, and Will and I both agree on this part. He says that Kirby Smart has no hardware to show. That is actually factually incorrect. That he has no hardware to show. Now, of course,
I showed you a picture. I showed you a picture.
Will's
got some hardware.
The 2017 SEC title in year 2, the 2018 Rose Bowl that they won, and one of the whether you're a Georgia fan or not, it's one of the best games we've ever seen. I mean, Texas USC was a fantastic Rose Bowl, but that one gets the edge for me because that was for the national championship. 2018, obviously the national championship game. If Georgia fans take the emotion of the loss out of it, that's one of the best played and well-played games you've ever seen. Sugar Bowl in 2020 that they won against Baylor, and then obviously the Peach Bowl this past year. So people say bowl games don't matter. Okay, let's get to that argument. Oh, bowl wins don't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, so, and this is not even, I don't even know if I'm debating Will anymore, but it's almost debating the other people watching.
I don't think we're really debating.
I don't think we're debating. We're giving 2 sides of the story in all actuality. If bowl game and bowl wins don't matter, then let's stop. And we'll even give the fact Kirby Smart's won 3 straight. He had won 3 straight SEC East titles and gone, like Will pointed out. Let's stop giving Dan Mullen credit for what he's doing at Florida, because if it doesn't matter, Dan Mullen won 2 straight New Year's Six bowls before he went this year, and they went to the SEC title game. Well, don't give him credit for what he's doing. Let's don't, because if you're going to give Dan Mullen credit, you need to give Kirby Smart credit for what he's done at Georgia, winning 3 straight. Now, like Will said, the powers that be in the college football landscape have changed drastically. I want to take you over to a look at the national championship, and we're going to share this. I'm actually just going to share this. Kirby Smart's Mark Richt's first 5 years, there was one national champion from the SEC. That was LSU, headed by Nick Saban in 2003. All 3 of us agree that if Auburn gets the opportunity in 2004, they may win the game. It would have been a better game between USC and Auburn than I think they played Oklahoma that year, if I'm not mistaken, that USC ended up winning.
That is correct.
So we'll give Auburn the benefit of the doubt, but we're going to sit with the facts here and just say it's one national championship. Year 6 is something I think is very important to look at. Now, look, Will, you're completely correct. You threw the numbers out there. You throw this out here. In 5 years, the numbers are identical. And like Booger said, it is unfair, which I think when Booger's saying that, it almost defeated his argument, because if Tua does not throw to Devontae Smith, then Georgia has a national championship. I mean, we forget a sack on the previous play knocked Alabama, who had already missed 2 field goals in that game, out of field goal realistic. They would have had to kick a field goal to keep playing in all actuality. So when you look at this and you say, okay, what happened in the 6th year? Georgia goes 9-4. 2006 is when the college football landscape changes forever as well. I'm going to read you off the next 6 years of national champions. And if you're an SEC fan, you know this. Florida, LSU, Florida, Alabama, Auburn, Alabama, Alabama. That's 2012. Take a break in 13 and 14 and bring us back. 15, Alabama. That's the first year of Kirby Smart, okay? 6 out of the next 8 seasons we have are SEC champions. So the argument is that Mark Richt, and you go look at Georgia's schedule, their records suffered after that. It changed. And we can get talking this too, the Saban effect. That's really when you start this happening, because I won't argue. Mark Richt is a fantastic coach. He was a great coach at Georgia, one of the best coaches in Georgia history. To suggest that Kirby Smart is better right now, let's don't do that. And then Ralph's going to come in with a part after this for how he feels about comparing coaches. But I'm fine with sitting at 5 years. Now, year 6, if Georgia loses 4 games this season, then let's have the conversation. To me, there's no way Georgia loses 4 games. I mean, it would have to be something absolutely crazy for them to lose 4. They do lead off with Clemson, but you look at the East, it's a complete mess right now. There's no clear challenger. The best challenger might be Kentucky or South Carolina, in all actuality, who could contend. And that's just, yikes. I mean, crazy things have happened, and we may have to come back to the show. Like well, Florida doesn't have a quarterback.
It's better. Everyone's better than Tennessee right now. That dumpster fire going on there. So
yes. So when you talk about getting over the hump, and the last thing I'll say on this is Kirby Smart has this Georgia program. It feels different. That's what a lot of Georgia fans said. It just feels different. Now, I'll go back to Mark Richt. I talked about him being a great person. He's almost he's a great Sunday school teacher, a great guy. And I'll even give this to you. Will, you grew up an Auburn fan. Ralph, you grew up an Auburn fan. Everyone respects Mark Richt. Like we all agree on that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so everyone respects Mark Richt. Mark Richt's Georgia teams did not strike fear into anybody. No one feared going to Athens and having to play Georgia. They really didn't. Yeah, you could argue maybe Vanderbilt did, but Vanderbilt fears anything that's not on the baseball diamond or in the classroom. So I think when you look and see, I'm not saying that every single team fears, but to me, teams know to get to Atlanta, it has to go through Athens, or in case of Florida, it has to go through Jacksonville. You have to beat the team in Athens to get to Atlanta. That wasn't always the case with Mark Richt. There was not a fear. You talked about the recruiting rankings. There's a ton of hype. And so I would say that, and that might be a little more emotion of the Georgia fan that comes out, but I think when you look and you see exactly the mentality of the program is what's different for Georgia fans. When they look and see we are competing at a higher level, where in recruiting, you saw the rankings, we weren't in the mix for some of these the top tier athletes across the country. I think that's the big difference. So, Will, what you said on the field, record-wise, it's almost identical. And I'll agree with you. Mark Richt, too, 2002, heck, even 2012, with the loss at Alabama in the SEC championship game, they still probably get into if there's a playoff scenario. Mm-hmm. But what I believe is the trajectory of Georgia's program is brighter than what after year 5 for Georgia was, now knowing what we know. SEC landscape changed forever. Teams took a step up. And we can talk about that too. Ralph, I want to get your opinion because you don't like comparing coaches at all.
No, I never have. I mean, you can't compare, coaches from former team or former eras. I know, like Mark Richt and Kirby are not too far apart, but I'm not going to sit here and compare Nick Saban and Bear Bryant because that's two different eras, two different coaches. I know people are saying, "Well, Nick Saban's better than Bear Bryant." It's not fair to do that because Nick Saban's playing in a different era. He's got better recruits. He's got guys coming in every year that are probably way more athletic than Bear Bryant had. But now you're probably more hard-nosed football players back then. But one thing is, I'm not going to sit here and I'm going to go in FCS, or not FCS, a group of five school at App State. App State's had a different coach the past 3 years, every year.
Yeah.
They've had a coach come in and leave. You can't compare those coaches for one season because they're not establishing a system there, not recruiting very long. It's a dumb conversation. I'm not saying this conversation is dumb because I know a lot of Georgia fans probably are sitting at home wondering, are we getting the same outcome that Rick had? Are we getting the same outcome because Kirby can't get over the hump? I don't think so. I think Kirby's done a great job. I think he's doing a great job now. That one game that's dwindling back in Georgia fans' heads is the Alabama game.
Which one? Just Alabama in general.
2018 game, obviously. The national championship game. That one just sits in the back of your head. That hurts the most. I don't want to. I don't want to play Alabama again because we've lost past 2 times. And then obviously, if you're Georgia, you don't want to see Alabama in the playoff. You don't want to see them in the SEC championship. You want to play, in Auburn again in the SEC championship. You have a better chance of beating them on a neutral site. No offense to Will, I'm just saying. But if you're a Georgia fan, am I wrong? Do you want to see Alabama sitting there in front of you, blocking you from the national championship game?
Well, I don't think that. I don't necessarily think that Georgia fans don't want to play Alabama because I'll say this: I don't think the talent gap is very large between. I think it's execution. It's just Alabama executes at a higher level than everybody else.
I think if Daniels played against Alabama, it's a different game. I don't think it's the same. It's a different outcome. I think it's a different game.
The second half wouldn't have got out of his hand as quickly.
No. I don't think we can go on for that one for a long time. But
I think to just I think the biggest thing is the 5 years. Yes, they're almost identical. Rick would have had a playoff appearance in at least 2002. We know that with winning the Sugar Bowl. Give me years 6 through 10, and if it's near the same, then we can say they're the same coach. But I think, and you're not even saying this, but the viewer that was watching. Kirby can't get over the hump. To me, that's a nearsighted and kind of a lazy argument. Just to throw that out there because we don't know. We really don't know. You have to think. I want to give a coach a full 4 years of recruiting before you can do something. Kirby just got through that here in his 5th year of his own guys, and a lot of people argue too. And even this kind of backs the Rick argument. A lot of those players that played the national championship were Rick recruits. Now, the big thing that Kirby did when he came in, he was able to flip from Alabama, and that was a massive, massive get for Georgia to get him to flip from Alabama. But I'll tell you one thing: it's Kirby versus Mark. It's going to be a conversation that continues on. I know
he got from to flip, but I'm in the camp. He made the wrong decision. I think Jacob Eason could have won him a national championship, but that's a different argument.
He was hurt. That's the only thing.
Yeah, but he missed one game. And it was a big game at Notre Dame, and Jake Fromm played great. But
we're also forgetting they had Nick Chubb and Sonny Michel, but
that helps.
And they had veteran receivers.
That helps the team.
They
didn't have to have that electric quarterback like Eason. But
now they
Bryce, like you said, right? Like years 6 through 10 are very important. Now, obviously, Mark Richt did not have a team that would have been preseason number 1 in year 6. That came in year 8. Kirby Smart's got a team that might be preseason number 1 in year 6. So is he ahead? I don't know. I don't know if that means he's ahead. I don't know if that means or whatever that means. But if this team, like you said, if they lose 4 games, something bad has to happen, or we learn a lot about Kirby Smart.
Yeah. These next 2 to 3 years are the big ones for me. If Georgia cannot at least get a college football playoff experience, and we talked about this again, if Georgia doesn't go to Atlanta this year, and we talked about that last week with Palmer Tomes that came in and talked from 24/7 Sports of Georgia, there's something really went wrong in 2021. So we'll get into more conversations about that.
One more thing about Georgia. We also got to consider the East moving forward.
Yeah.
2021, they're going to be a mess. So Georgia should win the East, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
But what does Tennessee do in their head coaching search?
Yeah.
Can Dan Mullen get it turned around, or does Florida change direction? Can Shane Beamer get some momentum? Can Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri build on a good year one? I mean, the East could turn around and just become as strong as the West in the next few years, and then this conversation is moot.
Yes, and I'll throw apologies because I think Missouri is actually the biggest challenger next year in 2021 because Missouri's quarterback, how he developed this year as a freshman, Drinkwitz has got a great game plan. I wasn't expecting to see what they did this past year. They've got a pretty good team, and if you forget, that Georgia-Missouri game at Missouri in the middle of like cold, freezing weather, it really wasn't dominated by Georgia until later on. The offense started to click later on. We do have another comment from Trey Alexander. Kirby's completely changed the culture in Athens. I completely agree with that. He changed the culture of it's elevating it, and I think that's what Georgia needed, and now they're playing a little bit of a higher level. And I'll say this too, having been a Georgia fan when I was growing up and seeing this, Georgia, to me, does not play down to the level of the opponents as much as they did when Mark Richt was there. It seemed if they had a Vanderbilt come into town or a lesser-known opponent that, they would play down to that level. Instead, we saw this year in a game that was a telltale sign for many reasons, and people shouldn't put too much stock into it. We saw a couple games like that, Missouri, Mississippi State. They played down, but then they overcame. Kentucky was one of those. They played down, but they overcame. And so it's just a weird thing. I think in 2021 would be a really good sign to see what happens.
This is an unpopular opinion because I know culture might be the most important thing a head coach brings, but every new head coach changes the culture. Every single one, even ones that are promoted from on staff, like Ryan Day, he's changed culture at Ohio State from what Urban Meyer had because they had a few bad years and they were on the brink of going off the rails. And Ryan Day has a program now that expects to be in the playoff every year. Brian Harson's working to change the culture at Auburn. Dan Mullen changed the culture at Florida. The 15 coaches Tennessee's had in the last 10 years have all changed the culture there. Yeah. So
for good and bad.
Yes. Culture is so important, but to me, I didn't even hear what Ralph said because I'm just rambling.
Okay.
Saying he changed the culture to me is a bit of a lazy argument because every coach does that.
Every coach does. I think that it's more of the on-field results from what Georgia saw in recruiting and bringing it in has been a little bit different. Listen, we're going to talk some more sports. That took up a decent amount of time, but we enjoyed talking about it. We have some NFL, we got some college basketball, and then some news today that broke out of Major League when we come back.
Cook's Place began serving our signature hot dogs in 1985 from a cart on Broadway. We still serve the best hot dogs and scrambled dogs in town at the corner of Moon and Miller Road and at the landings. Our friendly staff won't let you leave hungry. Come in and eat to the beat with our 50s jukebox. Cook's Place, fast service, great people, awesome food. What are you waiting for?
We welcome you back here on this Monday afternoon, the Crowded Booth Live, Will Mannis and Ralph Leary. We've been talking about some college football. We're going to ease into a little bit of some championship weekend. Guys, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but just give me a quick takeaway. First off, we'll start with the NFC title recap, the Bucs versus the Packers. Ralph, what did you see from this game? We watched it. To me, it was a fantastic football game, some questionable calls towards the end, but Tom Brady, once again, man, you can't doubt what he's doing.
Oh, well, for first, I believe it was probably the worst officiated game of the two. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady did exactly what he did with actually less talent on his side because Antonio Brown was out. He didn't have his probably most experienced playoff receiver besides Gronk on his team. I thought they played really well. I thought Leonard Fournette ran the ball very well. But the defense played outstanding. They had a lot of sacks in the first half that got Aaron Rodgers a little messed up. He threw an interception, and it changed the outcome in the game early on. A lot of people said that it was the Buccaneers' game to lose in the second half, and Aaron Rodgers stormed back, did what he always does, and plays very well in playoff games. And he made a few mistakes. I think the whole team made a few mistakes. Losing Aaron Jones did hurt them a lot. But Tom Brady does what he has always done, is becoming the best playoff quarterback probably in history.
Mm-hmm. I think when you see what Brady's able to do, it kind of spurs the conversation that Will and I've been talking about was Brady just a disciple and a product of Bill Belichick? Will, what did you see from what's a takeaway from this game for you?
Tom Brady, and this is the whole season, is undoubtedly the greatest quarterback of all time. Without a doubt, he has debunked all the arguments against him, which even I've used, that he's a system quarterback. He's only good because of Belichick's system and what Belichick wants to do. Yeah, I get there's been different offensive coordinators, but the biggest Bill Belichick disciple, Nick Saban, he made this comment when he brought in Bill O'Brien, who's more of a pro-style guy. He says, why should everybody have to learn his offense? He should learn ours. And I think that's what Bill Belichick has done with every coordinator he's hired. He's made them learn the Patriots offense because they all pretty much look the same, no matter who the coordinator is. But Tom Brady going to Tampa, going to be under a totally different head coach and Bruce Arians, totally different organization that does things from, the outside looking in completely different than the Patriots do. And he has excelled. He's had what I think, even at age 43, one of his best seasons. The numbers don't say it, but just all that transition and no offseason and everything that 2020's brought, probably his best year ever at 43. And now he gets to be the first quarterback to host a Super Bowl. And I think it's fitting that the best one of all time gets to be the first to host a Super Bowl.
It's going to be an exciting one. Their counterpart and the team they will face will be the Kansas City Chiefs in a game that was a 38-24 final. And I'll tell you, too, this game, Kansas City's good, guys. They're very, very good. Any takeaways? We'll go back to you on this one from what the Chiefs were able to do against this Bills team. And really, I'll say this, too. My only thing I'll say about it, Stephon Diggs, we talked about him being a key last week. He was very limited. I think he had maybe 2, maybe 3 catches in this one.
Yeah, the Chiefs defense really stepped up. I was shocked. I thought this was going to be a much closer game. I thought these were, without a doubt, the 2 best teams in the AFC and maybe the 2 best teams in the whole league, and Kansas City kind of rolled over them. I know they had the home crowd behind them, and, Mahomes showed up coming off injury, whatever weird injury it was. I think they ended up saying it was turf toe, which just a bizarre injury situation. But tell you what, this Super Bowl is going to be the best one we've seen in a while.
It's going to be a good one, Ralph. From the takeaways from this game, obviously Buffalo came in with a lot of hype. We saw Stephon Diggs standing out, watching the ceremony, which I'll say this about that. Ever since the kid from Cincinnati did that in the Peach Bowl, everyone's been doing it. And so whether it's really because you're for motivation or just because you want to get a social media post, we'll have to see. But Josh Allen said, we'll be back. And he was kind of frustrated with the composure of the team. Listen, the Bills are a talented team. They're going to be in the conversation to go to the Super Bowl, I feel like, for the next couple of years.
I think Buffalo is just 1 or 2 pieces all from being in the Super Bowl. I mean, they have an electric team with an electric fan base. Now, obviously, you don't have the full fan base this whole season. And I said this, I think, the other day. Buffalo against Baltimore last week with full fans in Buffalo would be the most exciting football game in history. Mm-hmm. Those fans are crazy, and they love playoffs, and they finally get to go back to one, and that would have been awesome. But, with Josh Allen, I think what a lot of people didn't see was that he went to every single player on his team, shook their hand, and says, hey, we're going to be back. That's a leader. Josh Allen is developing as he's already there as an MVP quarterback one day, but with what he did last night, I think we can see that next few years that the Buffalo Bills are going to be competing in the AFC every single year with the Chiefs, I believe.
Ralph kind of sounded like Kirby Smart post-game of that 2018. He's when Kirby Smart said, listen, I think everyone can see that Georgia will be a force to be reckoned with. And, hey, they have Jake Fromm, so they have some unfinished business. They're just taking a page out of Georgia's book. But, listen, the Bills, talented team, a very talented roster. Stephon Diggs, a career year, a great job from the Chiefs to shut him down, a primary target. And I just think that this Bills team will get better. They will get better, and they'll get healthy. I know they had some running back issues where T.J. Yeldon had to slide up from the practice squad to make an appearance, and still a talented running back, but it's not the normal group that you have out there. So that's a little bit of a recap from the NFL front. And, guys, I want to get into this before we talk. We're going to talk some college hoops to end the show. But obviously the news that came out today was that Major League Baseball and the union, as of right now, cannot agree. There's going to be no DH, no expanded playoff. Now, the reason that I say that is because that was the trade-off. Baseball and the owners, they said, listen, we'll give you the DH, but you got to give us the expanded playoff like last season. The union declined the offer, and as of right now has not put together a counteroffer. We'll talk about the effects, but you're feeling, guys, your feelings hurt. There's not going to be a DH. There's no expanded playoff. Will, we'll go with you first here on the DH and your curmudgeon self. Give me what your thoughts on this, because I will say it is bad that this came January 25th. Teams need to construct their rosters, but now that this is kind of here and this is kind of what's shaping out 3 weeks away from spring training, we'll talk about that as well. Will, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this decision should have been made in November, without a doubt. But like I said, I'm an old curmudgeon. I don't like the DH. I think baseball is a game played with 9 players, 9 positions on the field, 9 batters in the lineup. And hear what I said, 9 players. If you're a pitcher, you also play. And you're gonna get me on my DH soapbox right now. If you're a pitcher, you're getting paid all this money to play a game. Just be competitive. I don't think they should hit 300. I don't think they should hit 250. Just don't go up there and strike out every time. I mean, take batting practice once a week or something. I mean, have some pride about it. You play baseball. You're a baseball player. Be proud of it. Be proud of that. Be good in all parts of the game. But that's a rant for another time. Ralph, just take over before I go off the rails.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like. I was never really a part of for the DH in the first place. But I kind of like this past year. I think it added, from the National League especially, it gives you a more chance to be a more explosive offense. And we saw the Braves, especially this past year with Ozuna, they definitely became a more powerful team to face as a pitching staff. I mean, you got to develop your bullpen and your people you throw out there differently when you hit to face 9 guys who can all hit very well against you. When you have 8 guys and you have a pitcher, it's a little bit different. I do like having a pitcher though. I like Will's idea with this. I do like Will's, theory with all this is that pitchers should be playing. If they're going to be out there pitching for 6 to 7 innings, they should bat at least once or twice in that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, listen, we got a comment. I'm going to throw this up here because it backs my argument. The game is more entertaining with a designated hitter. It is. It is because people love chicks dig the long ball. I mean, let's go back to the commercial with Maddox and Glavine. They do. And I think –
yeah, let's go back to the commercial. They took some pride about it. They worked at it. They got better at hitting so the chicks could love them for their offense.
Oh, man.
I told you were going to get me started. You're going to get me going.
My conversation on this will just lead to, baseball, they waited way too long to make this decision. We're 3 weeks away from spring training, and we'll talk about that as well. But I think when you look and see how this affects teams, let's make it just either all DH or everyone has to hit.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired of seeing it's an unfair advantage for American League teams because every single offseason, what do we talk about? We talk about, Braves fans sit here and say, or fans of a National League team say, we can't sign that guy because he can get more money being a DH. Perfect example of a guy who mashes, Nelson Cruz. Like he's been a DH essentially for 5 to 6 years at this point, and he stayed in the AL. And there's no room for him in the National League. So if you're going to make it, let's make it one way or the other. Now I'm in the camp of I was in Will's position last year. I was, I was a kind of true to the game, old school style. Let's get some small ball going, and teams are great at that. But I think too, I learned to love it because there's not an easy out, and it puts more pressure on pitchers. Like Ralph was saying, your bullpen guys have to be in better. As a starter, you're going to look through 1 through 9. There's no easy out. Also, it gives guys a chance to revitalize their career, to have a longer career, to be able to. And I feel like Will is going to say, we'll just get better at defense. But listen,
exactly.
The fact of the matter is I think this is all just leading up and coming to a head that when the CBA expires in December, this is going to be a conversation. And so this is not the end of this. This is just for this year. But I'll ask you guys this. It affects these teams, and that leads right into the discussion of the Braves. And obviously we're going to have to see what they do over the next 3 weeks because Marcell Ozuna is still out there. The Braves look like they put in an offer on Springer. We know that Alex Anthopoulos likes to go those 1-year higher AAV deals. For those watching, that's average annual value. But I think that what we're going to see is if the Braves can realize and fans realize this, and this is actually going to answer the question that just came in from Drew Haywood, the Braves signed Ozuna in 2020 with the knowledge that the DH was not going to be into effect. Okay. Now, some may say, and the person 2 people away from me might say this, Marcell Ozuna cannot field to save his life. I mean,
does he even own a glove?
See,
he has a gold glove, actually.
This is he's a gold glove.
So did Nick Markakis, and I love Nick Markakis, but he's not a good fielder either.
there's like a 6-year difference in the guy between the guys, 7-year difference between Markakis and Ozuna.
Yeah, but their defensive levels are about the same.
Yeah, he's a corner outfielder. You don't have to have it's okay. But anyways, so Drew, I do think the Braves are still in on Ozuna because they have to have a bat that protects Freddie Freeman in the lineup. So we'll talk about a little more on that Wednesday show, but that's something interesting kind of going back into the Braves. And then I want to talk about the Major League Baseball as a whole here, guys, because it was reported today that the Cactus League, which is the spring training league out in Arizona, and I don't know if you guys saw this, requested and sent in a formal request to delay spring training because of increased COVID cases in their area. Now, this is we're not trying to get into conversation of whether COVID is real or not, because it is a real thing that we've seen. We all know people who've experienced it. But I think if Major League Baseball cannot figure out a way to play a season and have some sense of normalcy after watching a full calendar year of people do it, the powers that be in the front offices and up in upper level management of Major League Baseball itself, I don't know. They've had their heads in the ground for the past couple of years. I mean, the past year. They don't. I mean, it would be a shame, a shame, just a criminal act if you can't figure out how to play baseball. Because listen, we know this is a thing. We know what's going on. Every other league has figured out a way to do it. Heck, even college baseball has started to announce their schedules this year. If you can't figure out how to do this would be even easier because you're not going cross country. You're just playing the teams that are like 3 hours away at max from you. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this because do you think spring training should be delayed? If it is, what are the repercussions? Are we seeing another situation where these owners and players are just using it to try to get their way and what ruins the image of baseball?
I'll let Will go first on this one.
No, spring training should not be delayed. And yes, they should play baseball. And yes, the people running Major League Baseball are dumb. They're dumb. All the talk is about how to grow the game. And let me clarify the DH. I'm against it, but I know that's the future of the game, and I've already accepted that it's coming. So just I get so angry thinking about Major League Baseball, about how much better of a job they could do marketing, growing the game, whatever. And it seems like every proposal that Rob Manfred has on how to excite the play on the field is just the wrong idea. Pitch clock, bad idea. DH, my opinion, bad idea, but it's coming. So good idea. It seems to be well received from last year. Good idea. But and now they don't want to have a DH. It just makes no sense. Bryce, I agree. If they don't play baseball this year, the sport really could die. It could die. And nobody's going to watch Major League Baseball because it's going to be the same thing that happened when they struck in the 90s. The league is going to swing it to be the players' fault because they have the money and the power to do that, and that's what's going to happen again, and the public's going to turn on the players. So I don't know what that means for the game, but they've got to figure out how to play. And like you said, every other sport has done a bubble, even the sports that are traveling. Like you see the NBA, they've had their fair share of COVID problems and have to cancel games. But they figured out a plan. They've had a plan. They're playing games. They're doing as much of a bubble as you can do. And now that we're having vaccinations, you can do exactly what the NBA is doing. Just like a modified bubble, a moving bubble. Spring training should be the easiest bubble you can have. I don't understand why the Cactus League wants to delay it because all the teams are
within 3 hours.
Within 3 hours, like you said. I mean, there's no excuse why they can't play a season.
You're 3 weeks away, and what's concerning is we haven't heard anything about this until now. I mean, that's the part that catches me off surprise. It's not like – I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. It's not like it was last year when what we know now, you could have still played baseball last year. We just – nobody knew enough about it, what was going on. Well, now you know about it. Like, you know what's going on. You've known that February 17th, players and pitchers and catchers were going to start reporting for teams. Like, it's not like that date creeps up on you every single year. Ralph, I want to ask you, this spring training could be delayed. How does that affect teams? Do you see maybe a start, I don't know, around Memorial Day weekend if we have to back it up that far?
And Will took everything out of my mouth, honestly. I completely agree with him. If they delay spring training and it delays the whole season, it's just going to make it harder for people to watch this year. If I got to wait till Memorial Day to start watching baseball, I'm going to be in a very bad mood because I can't watch NBA all this year. But if you can't figure out how to have 162 games played this year, you don't have to play all 162. I understand they want to play the same amount of games for every team. Now, 1 week, one team may have more COVID cases and they can't play. I understand that. It happens in the NBA. They've had a lot of cancellations lately, but a lot of teams are still playing. If they have not figured out how to do this yet, since they had a 60-game season, a very successful season, honestly, they had a very successful playoffs. Everything went well. And from that, you cannot move forward to have a season. You are doing a horrible job.
Yeah.
That's literally what Will's saying. If you can't figure this out, you're not doing your job properly. And you're ruining the game.
Well, and the problem is, too, Will hinted at it, is there's a money grab between the owners, and all of this is going to come to a head in December of 2021 when baseball and obviously the CBA agreement is void and it's expired. Yeah. And we start arguing about all these things. And so that's one thing I'm not looking forward to. And Will, like you said, if they can't figure out a way, this is what drives me insane. And we're going to jump into some college hoops after this. But the last thing I'll say on this, all the problems, and we still can't figure out how to not allow MLB TV to black out in your area. Like that's still a thing. That's still a thing. You can't even watch the game if you live there. So I just wanted to get that from you guys. But guys, we're going to hop on over to the hardwood here. You like that right there? And we're going to talk a little bit of college hoops. Now, listen, college basketball's had an interesting season. I want to brag on a team that had an inspiring performance this past week. But I'll tell you one thing. We have the SEC Big 12 Challenge, which for Auburn fans, we're going to talk about it, Will, is not a fun draw for the Tigers by any means.
Fun. It's still fun.
It's still going to be fun. You get to watch Sharif against the Baylor Bears, number 2 team in the country.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
I'll tell you this. The big surprises, and I'm going to say this, if you're a betting person, don't ever bet against Alabama right now because they just cracked the top 10. They're number 9 in the country right now. And also, out of the ACC, I'm going to give them a little props here because they defeated a ranked Clemson team, and then they went on the road and almost pulled off an upset and were leading by 9 at one point. The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, folks, they got a veteran squad. Was talking with Coach Pastner, and this will flow right into the Auburn conversation, Will. Auburn has Sharif Cooper, freshman guard, talented, probably one of the most talented players in the nation. But Georgia Tech's benefiting right now because they have 2 junior and senior veteran guards. And in a year with COVID, where you those guys have already know how to do all these things. I'm not saying Sharif don't know how to play basketball, but there's been an acclimation period. Let's flow right in now, Auburn. Auburn's got to face Baylor. This is going to be a very interesting matchup, and honestly, a measure of how good is Cooper because he's going up against one of the top teams in the country.
Well, honestly, I think the book on Cooper's out already. I mean, the kid struggles shooting the basketball. But that doesn't limit his scoring, which just shows how great of a player he is at 18, 19 years old. I don't know if he's turned 19 yet, but he might be the most talented player Auburn's had in, dare I say it, 40 years since Charles Barkley was there.
Wow.
It's a long time.
Auburn fans are irate right now. They're like, what about Mr. Okiki?
What? Yeah, Chuma. Wow. It's hard to say. No. But, honestly, just previewing the game a little bit, I haven't watched Baylor a ton, but I know they're good. They got into conference play in the Big 12, and they've had some struggles. Big 12 is a deep conference. Oklahoma State's been really good. Kansas has been really good. They gave them some close games. I know Oklahoma's been good. I don't think they've played yet. But so there's some really good teams in that conference, and Baylor's had their fair share of struggles. But whenever a team plays Auburn, they're always ready. I don't know what it is. They're always ready. Very rarely does Auburn get a team on their worst day in any sport. But we can't just talk about – we're going to talk about Auburn. We can't just talk about Sharif Cooper. We've got to talk about Allen Flanigan, who I think has been the second best player on the team. The dude has grown his game in every facet. Last year, he couldn't hit the ocean standing on the beach, and now he can't miss. He can't miss the bucket. Shooting from 3, shooting free throws. This Auburn team, much better than they were at the start of the year. And I would say better than last year's team as well. They got a much better point guard, much better shooting guard, Justin Powell. Hopefully he'll be back. If he's back for Auburn, I'm putting Baylor on upset alert if Justin Powell's back. He's been out with a concussion for, I think, going on 3 weeks now. Yeah. Just can't shake that. And concussions are a scary thing, as we all know. I don't even know what the other matchups are, Bryce. You're gonna have to fill me in
Yeah,
on that.
I'll throw you down on these matchups real quick. Alabama's going to be playing Oklahoma. Oklahoma had the big win over Kansas this past weekend, so that's got to be shake out a big matchup. There's some other ones: Arkansas, Oklahoma State. If Cunningham does indeed,
that'll be a fun one.
Which let's just talk about that real quick. Or we will out of state the fact Cade Cunningham was not allowed to play due to COVID, but he was on the bench. So there's that.
Same thing with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
Trevor Lawrence, when he traveled with the team, like
exactly. Florida at West Virginia. Texas is going to be playing at Kentucky. Preseason, that one probably looked like a better matchup. Texas is a good ball club. Kentucky's struggling, obviously, right now.
Texas will likely be without head coach Shaka Smart. That's a positive.
And we'll see if that plays part in that. Texas Tech at LSU. That's a little bit of an underrated matchup. A good Texas Tech squad versus an LSU team that is kind of, you don't know, Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know who you're going to get on any given night. They can play
they looked really
well.
good until they played Alabama. But, of course, Alabama shot the lights out.
That's seemingly the cause for everybody, both in football and basketball. Everyone looks good until they play Alabama. Iowa State at Mississippi State. TCU is going to be playing Missouri. Texas A&M at Kansas State. And the one I'm excited to watch, it's a blue blood versus a team that, was very hyped coming into the SEC schedule. They get throttled, and so a lot of teams are down on them by Florida, or a lot of people are down. Kansas at Tennessee. They got to go to Tennessee. That's a good atmosphere with fans there. That has the makings to be a decent game.
Tennessee has to bounce back. I mean, they just got absolutely embarrassed by Florida. They didn't look great against Missouri. Tennessee's got to have a bounce back. And why not against Kansas? Why not?
Why not? Why not us? Why not us, they might be saying. Listen, it's going to be a fun slate of college basketball to kind of see what's going on. Georgia gets their first win over Kentucky. Got to throw that over there in 14 games. It's been 8 seasons since the Dogs. They got it. I don't care if Kentucky's bad. I don't care if Kentucky is playing 2 players on the court. That is a big win. But when you look across the basketball landscape, it's
it's an upside-down year in basketball when Alabama, Auburn, and Georgia have all beaten Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong. Something's very, very wrong. But listen, Alabama's got a talented squad. And guys, I want to end the show, end it on this. I want to get your takes on we'll talk about some stuff in college basketball, but you're seeing teams having to hit that certain benchmark of games they have to play to get into postseason play. I know a lot of teams are struggling with that to kind of get those games in. But Gonzaga, Baylor, maybe Michigan. I don't know if there's been more of a top-heavy, top line, 1-seed line that we've seen in recent years in college basketball. But listen, to me, Gonzaga has a very, very good shot to go undefeated. They really do. They really, really do. We saw Kentucky kind of approach that a couple of years ago. But I'm telling you one thing, if there's a team that could do it, and there's a reason it hasn't been done in 40 years, but Gonzaga would have a pretty good shot. Will, what do you think?
Well, Gonzaga plays in one of the worst conferences in America. Oh, yeah. So, they've definitely got a chance.
Well, I'm not saying regular season. I'm talking about throughout the whole tournament as well. Like they could win the whole thing and go to the tournament. I mean, that's when their next real competition, I feel like, will start. Because like you said, they play in a weak conference.
Mm-hmm. Auburn got to see them, and they throttled Auburn without Sharif Cooper, but it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, they just –
Now, I want to say
Gonzaga – go ahead.
About Baylor real quick, and Will was talking about, they've had some struggling games. Besides the Kansas game, they've beaten every team by 11 points or more, which I know 11 points doesn't sound a lot, but you beating everyone in your conference and everyone you play this regular season by 11 points or more, you're doing something right. Baylor is a very dominant team. I think Baylor might be the best team. I think they would have beaten Gonzaga this year if they would have played.
They have a talented team. Listen, I would love to see that matchup, Baylor versus Gonzaga. It'd be a ton of fun to watch. Any closing thoughts from around the sports world from you guys today?
MLB, step up, please.
Yeah, baseball, please step up. Please step up. We need some
pitchers step up to the plate as well. Don't just watch 3 down the middle. Don't look like you've never held a baseball bat before because you hit a baseball at some point. I mean, you had to hit in Little League. There's no DH in Little League unless that's changed.
Oh, geez. We're going to bring in one last comment before we end the show. Kyle, I think playing in that conference always hurts Gonzaga in the tourney because it takes a while to get used back to the game speed against elite teams. We've seen it. Gonzaga does not play well in the NCAA tournament. They may win one, but sometimes they get upset in that round of 32 or maybe into the Sweet 16. So it'll be interesting to see how they go forward. Listen, we're going to see you again on Wednesday here live. We got another podcast coming out Friday where we're going to be talking a little bit of Falcons. It's going to be fun to watch because, hey, the NFL draft's getting closer. And I staked my claim in the Monday mailbag today of why Zach Wilson should be the number 4 pick for the Atlanta Falcons.
One thing, Bryce. Wednesday, signing day for National Signing Day. Please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for updates on local athletes who commit or sign.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be an exciting week as we get ready for some commits, some signings as well. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a fantastic